1 minute left. Mr. Ahmed Shami, floor is yours. You can start.
A very pleasant evening to one and all. Dear distinguished guests and audience from all around the globe, welcome to What's Trending. Everyone remembers a teacher who inspired him. Everyone remembers a book that shaped his or her career. Everyone recalls the feeling when education gives him perspective, ideas, solutions, and prepared him to overcome life real challenges. Therefore, education is an investment that never fails because simply it's an investment in ourselves, our communities, the future of the world, and it's the foundation for peace and success. On behalf of Dr. Muhammad Al-Ali, Chairman of the Board and CEO of Trends Research and Advisory, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to our speakers, teachers, and educators all around the world. Those who have chosen to learn in order to teach us, to help us spread our wings with confidence and conquer our dreams. Also, I want to thank our team today for bringing us together under the umbrella of What's Trending, a global independent initiative inspired by 3 themes for the future. The What's Trending project will feature 9 e-discussions during this year. Each episode will focus on a different conversation simulated by opportunity, mobility, and sustainability. And as today's discussion, we will cover the first theme, opportunity, and how education can keep playing a role in unlocking potential within individuals and communities to shape a better future. Today's with our speakers, we will shed the light on the present and the future challenges and opportunities facing education, employment, and market future skills. Exactly at a time where schools, universities, and society at large are asking fundamental questions about education. Whether we like it or not, we are in a paradigm shifting age due to COVID-19. As a recent United Nations policy brief stated that the pandemic has created the largest disruption of education system in history, affecting nearly 1.6 billion learners in more than 190 countries all around the world. Finally, I hope today's discussion will be able to steer the attention of policymakers and the industry leaders to keep treating education as an ongoing reforming process towards the future. Also, to set the stage for the next generations to believe in the power of scientific research and innovation, to explore immersive discoveries and unlocking the impossible and make it say, I am possible. Thank you, our speakers, for accepting our invitation. It's an honor to have you with us today, and it's a greater honor to be your moderator along with Professor Fawzi Al-Ghazali, the head of the Scientific Publication Unit at Trends Research and Advisory. Starting our program today, kindly, I will first open the floor for each speaker to deliver a 5 minutes brief on his or her perspective and philosophy regarding our topic today. And next, my colleague, Professor Fawzi Al-Ghazali, will manage and open the discussion between all of you today. So, Miss Lena, thank you again for being with us today. It's an honor. Thank you for your time. And if you don't mind, let me start our session today with you. Miss Lena, you're the chair of vocational education at the Institute for Educational Science at the University of Zurich in Switzerland. You also, at the same time, a doctoral candidate and a researcher in the history of education. You stated previously that the best case scenario for the future of vocational education is to bring greater experience in dealing with mega trends such as digitalization and long life learning. In 5 minutes, please, how would you describe the relationship between the current future system of education and the future reflecting on unemployment, employment, and future skills? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this detailed introduction of your side. I'm also very glad to be here today and to be part of this discussion. Yes, so to your question, when I think about the relationship between the current Swiss education system and its future, I see numerous challenges or developments that are currently in the focus of public and academic discourse and that will accompany us for the next few years. The overriding issues are, for example, the changes in the economy, digitalization, as you mentioned already, and questions about the future of learning. And in my opinion, these developments represent connecting lines to shaping the education of the future. And for me, there are two central questions here. On the one hand, how can our education system continue to function in the future, at least as well as it does it today? And in the best case, we strengthen and improve it. And the second central question is, how can we make learners and students fit for the advancing 21st century? And which competencies do we need to strengthen? What kind of tools do we have to give to the learners? And now I would like to go back to the three connecting lines I mentioned in the beginning. In my understanding, the change in the economy means, among other things, increasing mechanization or computerization, the elimination of routine work, and an increase in creative activities and flexible work organizations, which allows for greater work-life balance, but also an increase in temporary employment relationships or increased time sovereignty. In short, we would say work 4.0. On the other hand, there is also a change in professions. The range of professions in the areas of information technology, business management, or marketing is increasing rapidly, while this is decreasing in the textile and clothing industry, for example. Automation and robotization are also changing occupational structures and replacing activities. For example, salespersons, bank clerks, or farmers are affected by increasing automation. This leads to the creation of new professions and in contrast to the dissolution of current professions. In my opinion, the second line of connection, the increasing digitalization, can be seen in technical developments, as in the example of robotization on the labor market, but it can also be seen in the formation of open and dynamic digital networks, as among other things, social organizational units, for example, for the exchange of information and for bridging distances. The networks are used for private, professional, cultural, or even political purposes. Increasing digitalization is also changing the demands on workers. On the one hand, they have to find out which skills they lack in order to be able to deal with new technologies, for example. And on the other hand, they have to be able to acquire them in some way and show flexibility in this respect. I would like to give an example here. Because of the corona pandemic, our university switched from face-to-face to online teaching. Now we as lecturers are faced with the challenge of digitizing the teaching materials in the most diverse ways and have to deal with new channels in order to be able to convey the content to the students. We are thus becoming kind of e-entrepreneurs. By the future of learning, I mean learning environments that are becoming more flexible and more responsive to individuals. So today, we can increasingly see teaching concepts that move away from fixed teaching times or standardized classes and leave more room for tailor-made learning, as we can already observe today. In this way, learners are given the opportunity to become education managers in their own right. And here I draw on the term used by the German sociologist Klaus Hurlmann. And precisely because of the changing learning environments and the change in workplace conditions, I believe it is increasingly important to address the teaching of enduring competencies and at the same time the obsolescence of various educational contents. So what skills or basic qualifications opens the door of the labor market of today and tomorrow for learners, and also provide orientation for learners? And I think orientation should be also a really important keyword. And here I see enduring competencies are also called the competencies of the 21st century, such as critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation, communication and collaboration. And these are all competencies that are already demanded today in the various job advertisements, alongside a bundle of professional competencies. For example, companies have long since stopped looking only for technical experts, but also for team players and
Yes.
creative minds.
Yes. Thank you very much, Miss Lena. I really appreciate the information, knowledge, and introduction. Professor Morten, it's an honor to have you too from Norway. You're also an extensive, long experience in education. You're yourself a professor in organizations and management at the Norwegian Business School in Oslo. Also, you're the former president of the European Academy of Management. You recently, last year, you published a book titled around resolving the crisis in research by changing the game and ecosystem and a sharing philosophy. You believe that the future of the education system must move from a neoliberal system into a more holistic sharing philosophy. You want also to focus on a lifelong learning through a system that can integrate the head, the heart, and the hand. Professor Morten, in 5 minutes, how would you describe the relationship between the current, the future education system, reflecting on employment, unemployment, and future skills? Please.
Thank you very much for the invitation and also for the introduction. You are really going into the core of some of the things I wanted to focus. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry that there are some problems with my connections, but I hope it will work now. I'm in the middle of the mountains in Norway when I'm together with you now. You was seeing some of the pictures in the background as we were preparing. I really want to focus on some of the things from my book, Resolving the Crisis in Research. And the first question is there a crisis in research? Well, I don't really respond to that, but I'm asking what is true scholarship, and then trying to make some kind of comparisons between true scholarship and also what is needed to really get into something that we're finding meaningful. One of the descriptions of the present scholarly society or the society today is what is called pop culture, publish or perish culture, which so much are taking us into a direction which is not really what I'm seeing is true scholarship. One of the things that I will start with indicating is that we are understanding the different parts of an ecosystem that is, we're finding an equilibrium now that is supporting this publish or perish culture. That is this ecosystem. It's including aspects of the institutions, aspects of the channels, the audience, the message, and also the community, that all are hanging together in some way and balancing each other out, and which makes it a bit difficult to attack one thing only because the other things are supporting. For example, with institutions that accreditations and ranking systems, I see that they are threats to our scholarly identity. We're seeing the channels, which unfortunately are quite dysfunctional and often US-centric. When I'm saying US-centric, I'm also a member of the board of the Academy of Management, which is supposed to be a global organization, but it's mainly a US-based organization. And then the audience that we are in this pop culture are getting into a situation where we mostly are doing research for ourselves. It's not for others, but it's for ourselves. And the message behind what we're doing, is it really to contribute to a better society? My main contribution in this book is trying to reflect on and try to learn something about the community. How it's possible for us as scholars to do something, to create a vibrant community of engaged scholars that we really are believing in what we're doing. And that's my main points in the book, and also the different contributions, trying to understand the community, which is where I'm presenting a kind of a sharing philosophy, that we should be open and share and learn from each other, and not just sit and protect what we're doing, but all the way being open and share with each other. And a second part of this sharing community is the open innovation part of it, and that it's going through what we're doing in a holistic way. I had a nice experience as a late career experience at a German university, where it was really stressed the understanding of head, hearts, and hands. And this is something that I really are trying to bring with me in my teaching, really to meet the hearts of the students. I so much enjoyed what you were saying in the beginning, that we all remember a book or the professor in some way. And I think we should think in the lifelong situation, that it's so important that we are communicating with the hearts of the students in such a way that they remember their experiences from that class, from that course, and from university in the rest of their life. And then they might be remembering what is the core. So that's some of the core things with me.
Thank you, Professor Morten, and I'm very excited to continue reading your book, honestly. Professor Gul, thank you very much for being with us from Kazakhstan. You're the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs of the Academy of Public Administration under the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan. What really brought my eye to what you've mentioned previously is that you believe that the future of education and its system should be oriented towards problem solving and independent learning. You also see critical thinking as one of the top future market skills. Please, in 5 minutes, how would you connect all of this to our topic today and the future of employment and education?
Thank you, dear Chris, for the invitation and such introduction. So the Academy of Public Administration under the President of the Republic of Kazakhstan is an educational institution with a special status and provides master and doctoral programs and professional development programs for civil servants across the country. So it's our specific educational organization. Over 25 years, the Academy has trained about 2,500 managers from various levels of government who made a significant contribution to the state system reforms. So every year, more than 25,000 civil servants improve their competencies at the professional development program in the Academy and its 16 branches. Academy implements a competency-based model. So all programs are built in accordance with the unified framework of competence, which includes 11 main competencies. So there are integrity, customer orientation, responsibility, initiative, stress resistance, system management, change management, strategic thinking, leadership, cooperation and interaction, activity management, decision making, efficiency, and self-development. We assess the competencies in the beginning of the study for master and doctoral program students, and check is changed at the end of study. So also each student, each participant of our courses comes with the problem he and his organization wants to solve. During the training, he finds the solution and then back to his place and implements in the practice. So the goal is to organize project-based and problem-solving educational process. This year, we started a new master modular program called Flexible as a flexible mode of study. It's a Master of Regional Development program when civil servants can study and work. So for the next year, we are going to expand the list of such programs. Because civil servants who wants work and study parallel, he come to these programs, special programs. The academy constantly organize corporate trainings where the whole team of the government agency participates in the training program. This format enables to work with one government agency, identifying their specific training needs. As everywhere, we started online trainings in March 2020, and now we have online and offline formats for first year students, only for master and doctoral, but PDP programs are still online, going online here. And I think the kind of situation requires from our participants, civil servants, self-discipline and time management skills also. And we understand, of course, the lacks in social interaction. Now we have distance between the teacher and the student. Very complicated, yeah. No, and there is lack of practice-based learning because it's not suitable for every topic to be online in online format. So this is the main idea that I wanted to share with you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Agul, for the extensive introduction on the Academy, and I hope forward with the discussion along with my colleague, Professor Fauzi, you would be able to elaborate more on the current topic too. Ms. Tatiana, it's a pleasure to have you also from Ukraine. You come mainly from the perspective of the private sector, public sector, which we really appreciate today in our conversation. You're the director of the State Institution of Export Promotion Office in Ukraine. You have extensive and long global experience in managing mega exhibitions in the market, and you've worked within the first national educational program Export Revolution in Ukraine in 2017. What really touched my eyes was that you see that the main challenge for the education system in the future is how to make the educational system more real and practical. So in 5 minutes, please, what is it? How you can put your philosophy, how would you reflect between the current and the future education system with your experience coming from the private and public sector?
Oh, dear ladies and gentlemen, hello, and thank you very much for this introduction. Yes, I would like to share some of the ideas from the perspective of the public-private sector, as we've been working consistently with the private sector, and we've been facing every day the challenges of this, especially the recent challenges, which are connected with the impact of COVID-19 on the industry, on this like changes of the global value chains, and how the industry, which skills, what do they need now and what do they expect now. So I would like to mention like two major milestones if we are talking about the education. What we've been facing now, the requirements from the industry to have new skilled employees, and those new innovative skills, they have to meet this new reality, this like new normal reality which we face now at these conditions of this like I would say broken value chains, global value chains, and that we could not move freely between the countries, especially when we are talking about the international business where we are like globalized and we are interconnected in a way. And the other thing, this is the cultural aspect, which is like the main core skills, and for our educational systems, if we are talking about the primary schools, which really give the basis for the children, and then has the impact on the quality of life and some humanitarian aspects. So the children, we are human beings, and all those like moral skills and moral characteristics, this is something that should be the basis, I would say. And I would also agree with all the other previous speakers that the constant education, this continuous education is required now, because we've been living in like such an aggressive environment. It's been constantly changing. And now sometimes we just cannot predict the future. We just cannot expect what what to do, what would we face tomorrow. So I think that all of us and all the employees, they should be ready to face the challenges, and they should be flexible enough. Their mindset should be flexible enough to deal with with all those challenges and meet all the tasks and requirements of the employees. And also this depends on the change of the habits, because we see the environment has changed. But if we are talking about the people behavior, communication lines, etc., there is the need and the time, especially if we are talking about like big industries, big companies like plants, manufacturing, etc., they need time to adapt in an innovative and technological way, as well as the behavioral way of the taking the decisions, this online mode of the cooperation. Now we've been facing all the like industry and like a search for the new buyers is paralyzed basically. And what we've been doing everything is B2B meetings online, but it does not unfortunately give such an effect, because here we see the matter of trust, because the trust between the nations, between the companies, this also has a big impact. And of course, the digitalization. Digital literacy, it became one of the also primary skills which is required, and which is required like from the like very early stages of the education. And now, fortunately, in our country, we have the Ministry of Digital Transformation, which is the driver of this fast-moving changes, and they've been doing all this digital education safe, simple, accessible for the people and for the children. And also what I would like to mention, one of our like really, thank you for the mentioning, successful programs was the Export Revolution, where it was the joint task force, not only of the participants from Ukraine, but from the international community who were open to share their experience and give the advice for like Ukrainian companies how to behave. And with this joint task force, with this like programs like this, we can build up also the communities around this like practical skills and practical requirements of the business, where the companies and the participants, they could gather around some topic which is crucial for them, which is the matter of interest, and which is like up to date and required from the point of view of the private sector.
Thank you.
They can build up the community around this and to develop it and interconnect and change the information. So thank you. This is something I would like to share.
Miss Tatiana, thank you very much for that, and I wish you all the best also with all the work you're doing with your office towards Expo. I wish you the best with that too. Obviously, it's a tremendous job to be done with the current pandemic. Mr. Yamamoto, thank you for being with us from Japan. I know it's late there, so thanks a lot for coping up with us late night. You also come from the private sector. You are the CEO of AMS LLC. But also you focus your private sector and consulting experience on education, which I believe it brings a great perspective to us. What really shed the light today on what you said previously, that you see the current education system is creating people who only memorize content, replicate low-level procedure, and follow only instructions. Please, in 5 minutes, how do you see the current future education system reflecting on our topic today?
Thank you. Thank you for your kind invitation and introduction. I'm very honored to be here to share my thought. So I believe the current education system has roots in the industrialization. And this education model is basically making a standardizing of people's capability to make a controllable, obedient labor, right? And what I said and to do so, the current education system has based on 3 principles. So first is memorizing contents, and second is replicating low-level procedures, and third is following instructions. The problem of today's education, however, those skills is something like computer programming or artificial intelligence can do far better than human being. And if you see the short video on the YouTube, there is a title called Human Need Not Apply. And you can recognize that these skills can be applied not only for automobile assembly line worker, but also to lawyers, financial analysis, even in doctor, in some cancer detecting and how it will be spread in future. And some music composers already made by artificial intelligence. And for educators, in test prep teaching, artificial intelligence is far better than, human being teachers right now. And in this information age, what you know is less valuable than what it means to, or how can we apply the knowledge into the particular situations. So if you're doing a manualized job now, you'll be soon replaced by machine. So I'll see from now on, not even near futures, we need to shift our education to three new principles. And that's, I believe, first is finding problem, which most people are not aware of them yet. And secondly is how to design these solutions. And thirdly is guide people to collaboration, not competition derived by the following instructions. Machine follow the instruction, but they do the contradictory, work, and they clash. But people can foresee the, confliction and solve for it. So, and that is not only my opinion, and you may refer to the OECD survey, but there is more direct survey results, such as conducted by Association of American College and University in 2013. They said that 93% of employers said a demonstration capacity to think critically, communicate clearly, and solve complex problems is more important than a job candidate's undergraduate degrees. See? And the other survey in Wall Street Journal in 2015, this conducted survey to 900 executives and get 92% of those executives said that soft skills were equally important or more important than technical skill like STEM education. But 89% say they have a very slow or somewhat difficult time finding people with these requisite attributes. And they say that it's not, it's a problem spanning an age group and experience level, right? So it's difficult to teach, those skills. So should I continue, or?
If you can save some of it for the second part, I would really appreciate it.
Perfect. Okay. So the second part, so the new education system should be based on three new principles. But my question is, how can we teach it? And in my view, those skills are not knowledge acquired by information transfer, lecture, or disseminations. So those skills can be acquired only by doing. And you have to use some useful concept and heuristic to get constant feedback to continuous self-reflections.
Excellent.
And that's something I would like to share.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yamamoto, for this. And I'm looking forward to see how the discussion, the second part of the discussion will come along to the very interesting perspective you've put. Last but not least, Dr. Zora, thanks a lot for being with us today from Indonesia. I know it's late too. Yourself also, you're a lecturer within the University of Indonesia. You are also an expert on human capital and forensic and psychology. And that's why what really captured me is that your focus a lot on problem-solving skills, because the world is facing, as you stated, a global economic recession. You also stated that, or emphasized on creativity skills, again, which comes along with other speakers with us today, because you believe mainly that we are now in the era of artificial intelligence. So in 5 minutes, Dr. Zora, how would you see this coming with the current education system, the future one, and the future skills of the market? Please.
Thank you, Ahmed. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me here. I'm based on security and forensic science, so and psychology. So my perspective is more in psychology and mental health. I see that the current before pandemic, the study is conventional, and then now it's a new era of digitalization. But the problem in some countries, for example, like in Indonesia, is that the access to internet is still limited. Some even students in the rural, the suburban cities, they have to go to in the middle of the street to get the network to attend a class. So if they didn't go into the street, they will not get it in their home. And then in the future, I see that the problem still in the climate change and new virus, because some research saying that after the climate change, there is a new virus or new pandemic bacteria released from the ice into the air. So we have to be prepared that this is not the last pandemic. And I see that even in the future, the challenges like, for example, humanitarian crisis, human rights violation, corruption in some countries, and cybercrime, also a mental health issue, prejudice also become a challenge. For example, in some of my students before pandemic, they in Indonesian culture, some of the campus, when they meet the teacher, they still kiss our hand, because we still hold into that culture that the student is respecting the teacher. But now after pandemic, the new era of digitalization, some of the students even fall asleep in the class, and then we don't know that, and then they complain that why my mark is so bad, blah, blah, blah. So it's actually it's a challenge for teachers. So the question in the future is, I think for millennials, for youth, is not what do you want to be in the future. It's not encouraging, not motivating a patient, but I ask them, what problems do you want to solve in the future? Because that creating a call, a motivation that they will be stick into that major until they graduate. Because sometimes during online system, they easy to drop out and then changing subject. In the future skills, I think is important are creativity, digital literacy, cognitive flexibility, and decision making. And I think emotional and social intelligence is very important. I attend some of the conference about AI, artificial intelligence. Even the experts, when I ask, do you have ethic among artificial intelligence experts that about privacy and things like that? He said, no, sorry, we don't have that kind of thing. So I think in the future education need to be focused on those skills. And also I add more ethics into some of the lessons.
Ethics.
That's very important. And leadership to regulate self, regulate others, because during online system we have to be able to leading ourselves. Otherwise, there's no control. Sometimes there's a prejudice. One class, I know in Indonesia, they put 170 students, so many in the class. Cheating because the teacher doesn't trust the students, because at that time maybe the connection was down and then the student was like off, and then the teacher said that, oh, you cheating. So okay.
Dr. Zora, I want you to save a lot of it for the second part. I'm sorry to kind of cut you, but thanks a lot for such sharing this experience coming from Indonesia and the reflecting of the pandemic. Thank you a lot for this amazing perspective from private sector to the public sector to the education philosophy. This is what makes our event today as what's trending, being honestly trending. And with a great honor now, I want to move with all excitement this great discussion to my colleague, Professor Fawzi, to lead this debate and e-discussion between all of this interesting information you've delivered. The floor is yours, Dr. Fawzi, please.
Thank you, Ahmed, very much for the nice introduction and for the very detailed and also very impressive insights you provided about this, what's trending. I just would like to extend my gratitude to the very excellent speakers for today. And also, I was planning a certain agenda of questions, but unfortunately, I am going to reshuffle all the things because I got very, very impressive points from all of you. I just would like to start from the theory of learning that nothing impossible. And if we wanted to achieve something in the field of education or whatever else, we can do that. In the Emirates, for example, we managed to do this. The last week, the Emirates managed to send the spaceship to the Mars, also in what's known as the Hope probe, which also was a great challenge for most of the countries in the Middle East. And the Emirates was the first country to do this. And the mission accomplished. And what was impossible has become possible. My question is right now is to see that if we are to speak about paradigm shifting from a certain philosophy of learning and a certain philosophy of education to a more advanced and a more challenging theory of learning that can cope with, that can match with the very unprecedented changes and development in the life and also in the industry. I think all of you are aware that education and the philosophy of education has changed drastically from the ages of Socrates and Plato, which they were very, very interested in working on the mind and also in empowering or improving the critical thinking of the learners. We can find that Socrates, for example, was used to teach his students through what's known as normative inquiry. Normative inquiry through some questions and through answers, and they were like through question and answering, students can learn by themselves without telling them exactly what the information is. The same was happened during the last century, and also the new post-modernist philosophers like Jean Piaget, Lev Vygotsky, and also we can find Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who also developed the concept of constructivism learning. And through this concept, they wanted to say that each learner can learn what we wanted him, what he wants to learn. We just provide, we are just facilitators, and we are also just facilitators of information, but the students can learn by himself. I would like to start from this here, and we can find that now the philosophy of education has witnessed very great changes from didactic teaching to dialectical teaching. And also we can find that this has been existing within the last 10 years at least. If we'd like to say, to start with, for example, Mr. Yamamoto from Japan, and to say that I came across the recent changes or the recent restructuring of the educational system in Japan, and I found that they are to study something is called integrative curriculum, in which they would like to integrate the theory of learning, or some can say that the theoretical framework of sciences with the skills. Can you reflect more and more on this point if you can?
Sorry, I was muting.
It's okay.
Yeah, thank you. Well, in my view, Japan has a legacy of, older style economy, which is following instructions and, learning contents. But there is a new reform going on to catch up to the information age, which is to create a kind of new scientist or new doctor candidate in scientific fields. So This reform actually going on from middle school educations to toward how we say not education, but let children to decide what kind of topic they want to pursue, and teachers will support on this scientific research. So that kind of learning by doing reform is ongoing.
Yes, this is fine. Do you think that probably I may also move to Dr. Eagle, Professor Eagle, if you can find that. I can see that improving the situation of education, is it a source of learner responsibility, or we can say that the educational system responsibility? That's to say, from another point of view, is it top-down approach or a bottom-up approach? Let's say to you that for me at least, and probably many of us, have been learned through many very, very traditional approaches to learning, very teacher-centered approaches in which the teacher was the main dominant of the teaching process, and we were used to be the receptive of information, and none of us used to dare to say any question to teacher or to reject or to maybe to say something against what the teacher says. But right now we are here. We are coping out with the new technology, and we are also empowering ourselves with the new skills required for the job market. So that's why the point is here is that the reformation of educational system starts from the bottom. I mean that it's a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach, starting from the educational authorities and their decisions to improve and to restructure the educational system in each country. What do you think? And probably also the question is open for all speakers if you would like to add in insights.
May I speak? Okay.
Yes, please. Yes. Go ahead, Dr. Eagle.
Thank you for your question, Professor Fauzi. So I think, to my mind, it's we need to choose bottom-up approach when the learners themselves decide what they want to solve in the future, because he's a person who will be who will do in future. They implement all the skills that we are giving him here, so in his real life, in the practice. So I think it's better to do bottom-up approach, and learners should understand first of all what his where he wants to implement everything.
Yes. Dr. Zora, I would like to say something about this.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are proud in Indo. We have a free curriculum. It's called curriculum, launched by our new minister in education. Basically, we meet in the middle. So what you suggest is we meet in the middle. The teacher only give only 60 credits of lessons, and then the rest the student have to go to other campus or go into the to the field to solve problems in the field in the real life. So that become 40 credits if I'm not mistaken. So combined will be 60 and 40 when they graduate.
Oh yes, this is fine. Yeah. So right now, how can we see Professor Morten? You have a very extensive experience in the field and also at the university level in particular. Are we still in need to have graduates of holding a master degree and PhD degrees? Are we still in need of this? Or to have persons who have very qualified and specific certificates in certain areas, like example, that can be fitting for the new future, the new job? I can understand, I can see some of my friends who has an MBA in some of the Master of Business Administration, and he submitted his CV for a job interview, and in some of the places, and they said to him, we are sorry, we are not looking for graduates that have highly academic degrees. What certificates, what professional certificates do you have? Are we going to abandon and leave the high level certificates like master degree and PhD degree and look for something specialized in certain areas?
Thanks for asking me. And I don't think there's one answer for everybody. But definitely there are needs for education in different ways. But different types of education might be needed for different persons. But I think we are in a situation where things are changing extremely fast, as we also have been into in this discussion so far. My focus is also, when I'm listening to you, also on the dialectic part, that
Yes.
we are needing to start with the hearts of the students in different ways. When I'm talking about students, it's not only PhD students, it's bachelor students, but also business people. It is more or less everybody. And I think it's so important to integrate the teaching with the research. I know that I'm mentoring lots of people around the world, and but I'm doing it in the same way when mentoring, that I'm starting with the heart of the people and then trying to understand them, giving them something, or trying to understand what is motivating them and giving them more motivations for whatever they're wanting to do. And then there might be different needs for having different types of education, whether they're PhDs, whether they are practical educations or whatever it is. But all the time, we need to think about what is also important for getting or having a sustainable society, to trying to do something for them to be responsible global citizens in one way or another. So, but that doesn't really go for whether they are taking a PhD or a bachelor or a master. And the need, I think we all should really focus on trying to help each other learn and meet the future. Not as so easy for us in academia now, just to try to develop something and try to present it. And this is even more important as we're seeing it now with the very fast development of the digital development society, that it's so easy to try to put something on the screen or on media in one way or another where you don't listen to, you don't see the audience behind it. I think it's so important that now even more than other times are needing to find out how it's possible to get into the heart of the students, as we know are, well, in the present situation, forced by the COVID to do the digital part, but also for the future. We need to get back to understand how we can work, teach together, learn together with the different students.
Oh, this is fine. Thank you, Professor Morten.
We
Ms.
add
Lina,
some information.
Yes, you can, sure.
Yeah. I want to just add that in the academy we have certificate programs which can be included in the master programs as a part. So you can just transfer credits from, for example, project management certification, and it could be part of your master program.
Okay, this is fine. This is great. Thank you. Dr. Zora, from your point of view, how do you think that if we are to agree upon the idea that the improvement of the individual skills starts from the bottom, from the individual learner himself, do you think that it's very critical to promote and also to foster learner autonomy and independence and also responsibility in a way that can allow them to take the challenge and also responsibility of the learning and to look for the skills they are already missing and improve them?
Thank you. Of course, it's very important for the autonomy. It's called Andragogy because after 17 years old, individuals, they don't use pedagogy anymore. They use Andragogy, which is for adults learning. So I think I endorse that all subjects need to have before they graduate, they need to solve some problems in reality, because that's building commitment and dedication, that they are stay in that subject and they feel like they enjoy it.
Okay, good. Thank you very, very much. I have a very, just would like to put before all of you, and also particularly to Lina and Tatiana, some points that for the future skills of the job markets, we have that it includes three categories, starting from the learning and innovation skills that includes the creativity and innovation, the critical thinking and the problem solving, communication and collaboration skills. And another category related to the digitalization of future life in terms of information literacy and awareness, and media literacy, and also literacy in information and communication technology. The third category is related to the life and the career skills in terms of flexibility and adaptability, in terms of initiative and self-direction, in terms of social and cross-cultural skills, productivity and accountability, and also leadership and responsibility. The point here is that the hundreds of followers of us on the social media applications and our readers would like to understand exactly what courses should I study in order to be empowered with these skills. Our university education and also skill education prepare us to be empowered with these skills and also with this capabilities to compete in the future job market? What courses exactly they should study? They are asking, would like to provide them with some critical and some practical advice. What should they do? Yes, if you can just, Lina, if you can start.
Yeah, thank you for this very interesting question. I think, or I would give the recommendation to the students that they should make suggestions from their side to the lecturers. And I would say it's a little bit difficult to think about starting or thinking about new study programs. I think it would be better if we use the skills you already mentioned, for example, critical thinking, and bring critical thinking more into our lectures, to put them in to be part of the university and part of the time we spend with the students. And so not just to think about starting with new study programs. That's a really important thing. And I also see these competencies. I mean, these aren't new. There were debates about these competencies in the 1970s, and they were then talking about critical thinking and creative thinking. And so I think that the topic should be to bring it into learning environments and to make learning environments capable to these competencies. That would be my opinion in this case.
Okay, but is there any specific recipe from your experience, from your work background to enhance these capabilities, or it's just course based, and also it depends upon the mode and way of teaching that can enhance these skills in the students?
Mm-hmm. I think this depends on both sides. So on the students and also on the lecturers and teachers. There should be a good balance, that the teachers are not talking only about that we need these skills, but that they also describe these skills, and that they try to also teach the theoretical framework. And I think you always need a theoretical framework if you want to think critical. So you have to overthink some facts you already got. And so I think the most important thing is to manage this balance, and to also give teachers the motivation to try to explain what these competencies really mean, because only then they can involve them in their lessons and in school or university or another level of education system.
Okay, great. Thank you very, very much. Yes. Tatiana, yes, what would you like to say?
Yes, Professor Fawzia, thank you very much for this question.
Most welcome.
Answering directly as for the competences you mentioned, I think that should be a fair balance, and it depends on the needs of the employer. And we've been now here discussing like two major parties of this process of the education. This is like the schools, universities, and the students. I would like to bring up the third party, because this is, I think, the most important. This is the future employer, actually, and this is this public-private sector. Because, for example, in Ukraine and in 2020, our Ministry of the Education and Science, together with the Ministry of Economy and Ministry of the Digital Transformation, they conducted the survey. And the companies from public and private sector which participated in that survey, they told that they've been cooperating with Ukrainian universities, like almost like half of those companies. They mentioned they've been cooperating with all those like institutions, educational one. But still 86% of those companies respondents, they said that they need the additional qualifications, additional skills, additional education for the students, because when the students come to the actual operations, to the actual company, unfortunately, the skills they require, it's not enough to be like very operational at this company. And like it should be mentioned, and it's very important that we see that there is the gap between the schools and the scholars and the universities and educational institutions and the private sector. And I think that we should all the like, I think, countries and all the parties, they should put the efforts towards the narrowing this gap between those, because this is the reality. The real life happens at the business or the public sector, because those are the people who are just been operating on the ground, and they are like down to earth, and they're more practical, and they respond to this new reality. And if the schools and the universities will work more closely and cooperate with all those parties, I think that they will come up with some innovational ideas and approaches. And sometimes, like in our country, business tells what do they want, and they are ready to accept students to their companies to make it possible to practice there, because to practice is the most important. Because how do the students can know what do they require if they do not know the reality? And how do the teacher, who also does not the reality and the real stuff, teach something to the student which requires some help and some like direction and vision and etc., etc. And I think that this close cooperation between the real sector and the educational sectors should bring up some like new ideas, new thoughts, new approaches. And this is something that I think they should shape the future of the education. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much, Ms. Tatiana, for your insights. I would like to say, to put some figures in front of Professor Morten and for all of others, if you would like to add. Professor, if you can see that one of the striking figures in them that are released by some of the indexes say that some of the jobs that will disappear in the coming 10 years or at least 25 years will be a number of jobs that we are teaching currently our students to be able to do in the future. But unfortunately, this job will not be longer existing in the future, including like the travel agent, the cashier, the mail carrier, the bank teller, the printing press operator, the legal secretaries, and also for the machinery workers, since everything are now controlled by artificial intelligence. I also would like to put some more figures, which say that 70% of the young people who are studying right now in the university level will be affected by the automation of all jobs in the future. And unfortunately, 60% of students are being trained or are being learned in jobs that will radically change it by automation within the coming 10 or 15 years. Some more striking figures is that 40% of jobs at a high risk of automation in the next 10 or 15 years. And this includes all of the executive secretaries, the laborers, the traders, the machinery workers. And the most of the demand will be for more professional persons who are very skillful and are skilled in doing certain tasks, and also for the health and security sector, because this will be very demanding in the future. Since we are connecting the education with the employment, would like to see what are the opportunities to overcome this dilemma in the future. It is catastrophe. When we are studying, our students are studying, our children are studying in order to be able to work in the future. But when you find that they are learning right now and they will not be able to find an appropriate job in the future because their education is not coping with the recent technology or the digitalization of the future market, what should we find? Now we find that the unemployment rate after 15 years will be almost 30%. 1 out of 3 persons will be unemployed in the future. And also this also due to the automation. Also we can find that the future will witness not only working in one job, and also you will be forced in order to cover the expenses of life to cover or to work in different levels of jobs, which you are not really prepared to do. I have here some stories from different persons, like, for example, an entrepreneur who drives on Uber to support his family in between working on a project to minimize water wastage. Another lady, she is also working, drives on Uber to support his policies and law study. And she balances between Uber driving with also her study at the university. The issue here by that we are facing a very great problem. What should we say practically to our students right now who are watching and following us? What piece of advice can we give to the educational authorities worldwide in different countries? How they can improve the educational system in a way that can equip students with the new skills necessary for the future work?
You're putting forward many very important points. And what I'm really are following is importance of creative thinking and curiosity, and also critical thinking, and how it's possible to do something with that. For several recent years, I've been working mostly with PhD students. And what I've really been challenged at, how can their work be important for the future? I don't want them to just go back to things that have been written 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I want them to be able to have a contribution, not only in 5 years when they're finishing the PhDs, but also in 10, 20, 30 years afterwards, so that they are getting into things that might be important. That means that we should play more with scenarios and working on that. We should not go into just some formal ways of working and thinking. We should work much more polymorphic. That means that we should choose alternatives, should try to find alternative ways of learning, teaching, doing research, publications, and try to think in alternative ways. One of the things that I'm trying to position in my book, this is the book that is presenting. It's hard to see actually.
Okay.
But when trying to change the game, then I really think it's possible for individuals, for each of us, to be champions for change, and we should support other champions for change. We shouldn't just take for granted what the government is doing. We should try to question and go to them. We should go to our universities. We should go to the ordinary systems to try to do something. And I think when doing something and not just only accepting that we have some difficulties, we can reach a lot. And a main thing of doing that is joint efforts, working together with others, that you're not the one that you're wanting to get all the credits yourself, that you're going together with others and trying to find possibilities, doing things together as a way of working. I think there are actors in governments, actors in academia, actors in business that all are seeing these problems. But it's so easy to just accept this is how things are. I remember one of the discussions I had with a professor from Abu Dhabi that I'm presenting some of the same things that I was doing here now, but and he was giving me the comment that well, we cannot do much because that's just the society is saying so. That's the countries are saying something. I don't trust that. I think we can do something, but we need to believe in what we're doing and act on it. So I think it's possible for us to stimulate the students to critical, creative thinking with curiosity. It's possible to address the others, but we need to be prepared for alternative thinking. So
okay, Professor Morten, thank you very, very much. So this means that, yes, Lena, come on.
I would like, if there's time left, I would like to come back to the point you said in the beginning of the question. You mentioned professions that are disappearing, are already disappearing or will disappear in the coming years. And I would like to shortly go on this point. At the same time, there are also occupational fields in which there will no longer be any jobs. And I'm thinking here, for example, of fields of study, such as business administration or law. And of course, these are not sunny prospects for students, if you can say so. And I think
unfortunately,
what is needed
yes.
here, I think what is really needed here is well-founded career counseling and also well-founded study counseling, so that we have people who are all able to give the students these perspectives and to be honest to them. And I think the magic word here is study guidance, and to show the apprentices and students ways to tell them honestly what awaits them on the labor market if they decide on the current course of study, and possibly also to introduce study restrictions or maximum numbers of students. I think these are really important points.
Okay, this is great. Yes. How do you see the challenge of educational reform? It's a cultural challenge, or it is financial challenge, or it is challenge coming from the top authorities. Why the reform and the restructuring of the educational system in different countries is facing different challenges? How do you see these challenges from your point of view? It's open for anyone who would like to share our ideas. Yes.
So
yes, yes. Come on. Yes. Yes, Yamamoto. Come on.
Thank you. So I think the problem lies on updating the operational system rather than adding some new subject matter or application, and that's why a lot of brand university like Ivy Leagues or top university in UKs or even top university in Asia are hardly to adopt these changes. I recently met some people in a school called Minerva School, which dramatically reconstructed its curriculum, and they don't have any campus. They do they don't have any lectures. They do only discussion and project-based, real project-based learning. They move around the 7 different cities in the world in their 4 years. So it's the combination of online education plus real project learning. And those new kind of institutions have far, fast mover and promoter of new education model. And so most even though it's a private sector or public sector, I think we already have a good benchmark to follow it.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I here would like to say to put within your hands some of the experiments conducted by Finland, in which they have something is called the alt school chain. And in this project, they follow untraditional route of teaching with the multiple purpose classrooms, absence of administration, and most importantly, it relies on recruiting staff, very highly qualified staff from Google, from Uber, from Rocket Fuel, and the most advanced high-tech companies. Why? In order to impart their personalized experience to the education field. How do we evaluate this point? Do you think that having a link and the connection between industry and education has become mandatory right now in order to prepare the new generations for the work field? Yes. If anyone interested to take part, or yes, Tatiana, yes, come on.
Yeah, thank you for this example, because I think this is an excellent example of this cooperation and partnership between the business and the educational institutions. And also, I would like to say that the future is changing with our concern or not. So we cannot change this. And I think that everybody will adapt to this reality, like some countries or some educational institutions and like public, private sector and students faster, somebody's slower, but this is not the case. I think that everybody, it depends on the condition and what each country and each institution has. This will be reflected in the future. But what I would like to say, especially like for the students, that they should not limit themselves only by the learning and educating at the universities and some like specialized schools and institutions. I think that here like a big part and a big milestone is this like the self-education. And I think in our reality and in now we have like so much information. But here, this is also the question of the hygiene of the information and the safe environment, getting this information from the internet and etc. etc. But I think like the self-education, because there are so much information wherever the student feels they have the gap. I think there is like so many sources now, like and some additional like official resources to find information there. And probably there is the need to make some like global like public libraries or some like databases for the students on different fields, so they could get the information there, and this information would be like up to date, and this information would help them to develop some of their skills and expand their like consciousness, get some knowledge, and etc. etc.
Okay, this is great. So we can start from what you said, that skills are improved and enhanced through practice, and the practice makes perfect, as all of us we know. So do you think it is the duty of schools to construct some training centers attached to the schools and workshops in order to prepare the new generations for the job market? Or it is the duty of some industries to prepare some training, also institutes accompanied to us to prepare fresh graduates and the new employees to be equipped with the skills that they require for their industry? Yes. Prof. Eagle would like to say something about this. Is the responsibility of preparing the fresh graduates with skills the duty of educational institutions or the industry sector?
If I may, this should be done. I think there's an option. This could be done in partnership, but I think it depends on also the framework and the system in different countries, because I think that both stakeholders are like equally important. They're different, because without the basic knowledge and the basis which is provided by the educational institutions, there will be no like more like narrow and specific professional skills developed, which could be developed by the businesses. But I think this is something what I was already mentioned. This is the gap between those two. They should be narrowed, and they should be meet somewhere, maybe at these training centers, hopefully, which you mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I would like, okay.
Yes,
Yeah, I agree with Tanya. And before Mr. Yamamoto said about two types of skills: it's a hard skills and soft skills, and maybe yeah, it should be done in cooperation between both organizations, and we need to understand where to give softs and where to give hard skills.
Great, thank you very much. I will ask, yes, I will come to you, Lina, about if you would like to add something. But before this, I would like to reflect on what you said previously in your introduction about the education 4.0 and its linkage to industry 4.0, in which they would like to make a link and also to fill in the gap between industry and education, as Tatiana said right now, in order to personalize the teaching curriculum and to prepare the students with future and sophisticated skills and data analysis skills necessary for the future job. I would like to tell you that, do you think that the current pandemic COVID-19 will be an opportunity to go further and consider online learning as a substitute of traditional classroom-based learning? Yes, Lena, yes, it's yours. Yes, come on.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it can be, or the corona pandemic brings along with it, on the one hand, challenges, but also opportunities, as you mentioned now. For example, that the students get in touch more with digital competences in an implicit way. So they don't have to think about much because they have to use their laptop or their tablet or whatever. But on the other hand, for example, for the moment, I see a lot of challenges, as for example, that we have to think more about, or teachers in, for example, vocational schools have to think more about how can we teach now practical skills? How can we get the students in contact with practical skills through, for example, the online teaching? I mean, in many countries there is only online teaching. So this is my.
Professor Morten, if you can just mute your mic, please. Hello? Okay.
So that was my comment. That was my perspective.
Okay.
On this. Challenges, but also opportunities. But maybe at the moment more challenges, I would say.
I am really impressed by all your own feedback and insights about this. Before I say my last question, I will give you 1 minute for each one of you in order to give a piece of advice to two categories, two persons, or consider two sectors. What would you like to educate worldwide in order to improve the educational system? And what would you like to say to anyone who is following us on the social media applications and he would like to benefit from this e-symposium? But before we come to each one of you, I just would like to say I have another experiment from Stanford University. This experiment is very fascinating. It's called the open loop, which means that there is no strict duration of study. The bachelor is no longer 4 years, and the master is no longer 2 years, and the PhD is no longer 3 or 4 years. It says that you can start your bachelor degree this year and finish it after 20 years for the bachelor degree. This means that you are taking some courses every time while you are working in order to take the course you only need for your work. So do you think it is this experiment from Stanford University can be generalized to other contexts, or there are some cultural challenges that can prevent the application of this experiment? Dr. Zura, would you like to say something about this?
Thank you. Well, I come from culture that is very Asian, very like, so teachers or lecturers here are like,
that's why I would like to say
are like parents. So in Indonesia, when we graduate from high school, there is a teacher called counseling teacher that will guide the student to choose the best subject for her. So there is a test, psychological test, etc. And then in the campus in bachelor, the environment in Indo is still like a parent, like the lecturer are parents. So it's when I study in Australia, I see the culture is very different that from Indonesia, because so I think because I'm in a field of psychology, the one that the questions that you raised earlier doesn't happen to in psychology, because for us, I'm in forensic science, forensic psychology, we still need humans to, even if there is a AI and then big data, we still need humans to do some analysis to profiling the offenders and everything in the court for law enforcement. So big data is just big data, but without humans, we cannot make a summary about what should we do for that offenders, what kind of rehabilitation that we should apply to him. So your question is really like out of, I'm still thinking that what if there is a robotic in psychology? I mean, like counselor robot. So it's
yes.
yeah, my mind have, and
Yes,
because
I see.
because in Indo we have 270 million people. I think the forecast that you described is still a long way from Indonesia. I mean, for Indonesian, because it's still, I think maybe in 10 years or 15 years from now, not in soon, not soon. So, yeah.
Yes, I can see that there are always some cultural limitations and restrictions that can prevent the application of any innovation, which we can be satisfied that it will bring some more productive results. Now, my dear speakers, I am really appreciating your own insights and also your own participation. If you can start with Professor Morten, in 1 minute, please, what would you like to say to people who are watching you in order to be ready for the future job? Please, your mic is, please. Okay.
No, it's should be there. I really want that everybody is able to follow their hearts. And I really hope that we can help each other doing things based on a proper motivation. When being a professor, I want to share my experiences with my students, with those I'm mentoring. It is not I'm the one telling them what to do, but really to help them ask proper questions. So what I really want to say is integrate head, heart, and hands, and the heart may be the starting point.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Yamamoto, would you like to say something?
Yes, thank you very much for today's conversation. So my message to all is it's important to think how would you like to be remembered? And this brings you a question that how would you like to design your life, your own life? And to do so, you need to decide what kind of skill you need to design your life. And that's and how would you like to learn it? There is several ways to learn it, but it's your decision to make. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yes, I would like to say, Tatiana is also here or not?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, yes. would you like to say in a minute, please, what you can say, what piece of advice you can give to the persons who are watching you, who are following you?
What I would like to summarize is I think that the situation which we are operating now, it shows us that everyone and everybody, we are so interconnected globally and individually. And I would like to leave a message that we all are interdependent. And if we would give the opportunity and would give to each other some more support and will meet each other requirements, this will make our life much more easier, and that would make our mindsets more flexible, so we could respond to all the challenges in a more proficient and efficient way. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Prof. Igul, yes.
Thank you. I would say that now we are facing with personalized learning. So you can choose your learning path and study at your own pace. So you become more motivated and invested in the course. Please.
Thank you very much. Lina, yes, tell us.
Yeah, thank you for the words of my four speakers. I would like to connect there and probably address the students and learners who may be listening and now here in this place to us, and encourage them a little bit to be able or to ask questions in class or during lectures, and to bring in also criticism or even skepticism, because that's the grounded floor, or that's only how an existing educational system can develop further.
Thank you all of you for your participation. And if we wanted to confirm something, we can say that nothing will survive. Any educational policy will never survive if the acquirer, I mean the students, do not have the intrinsic motivation. They don't have the responsibility. They don't have the willingness and the ability to improve their skills and look for some other alternatives and some other different resources, not only to take one resource. The teacher and the school, the university, the lecturer is one source, but there are too many hundreds of sources that can empower the new generation with skills. Skills are improved through practice if we are willing to do so. My dear speaker, thank you very, very much for joining us. And for today, I just would like also to say that this is not the last time. We would like to see you more and more again in our future symposiums. Next week, we have 2 symposiums on Monday and Tuesday on 2 very, very interesting topics. I wish you can follow us on that. And also, I invite you all to be one of our non-resident researchers. If you would like to submit any papers, any articles related to your field of interest, you are most welcome. Our conference department will be in touch with all of you in order to submit papers or in order to contribute to any topics which we can publish on our trends research and advisory. Most welcome. Thank you very, very much, and
Thank
good
you very
night.
much.